Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Testimony Night. My name is Dr. Tina Ibironke, and tonight I'm here to share yet another great story. As a custom on this particular platform, we share stories, real life stories from people's experience, how they have managed to turn the tragedies or the incidents what they've experienced in life, how it has led them to a testimony, even though it might be a test seen by others as being bad and painful. But in the stories that we deal with here, we have seen how God has turned the particular test to a testimony. And that's why we come here to share and to encourage people, and because I encourage myself as well, with the hope that other people can see, or maybe at some point in time, be able to use the lessons that they learn from such real life testimonies. Maybe they'll be able to apply to their own lives as well, and also to see that whatever they may be going through in their lives, it is actually a stepping stone to a greater future, and that is what we intend to allow people to see here. And by the grace of God, being a Christian forum, we believe that each and every one of us, we may have one thing or the other that we may not have been through, or maybe we are going through, but we know very much well that we serve a God who is faithful and is able to turn all our tests, challenges, and what those things, or whatever pain it is that we may have been through or going through, turned out to testimonies. So here we go, the Lord that we know, he very much is able to do all things, God of all impossibilities. So let's get right to it tonight. We're not going to waste any time. I will be talking about this particular documentary that I watched. It's actually titled Omo, Child. So that in my language means child, but this is actually a totally different country. It's Ethiopia. I am originally from Nigeria. So this is an Ethiopian, I believe it's a tribe in Ethiopia, and that's what this particular story or documentary was all about. And it's very interesting how you look at other countries and you see similar things, and you begin to think about those stories that you heard growing up, and you think, wow, that happened. And then all of a sudden, you're reading stories that's literally in this day and age, those things that you thought, well, maybe they made it up, is actually still happening. And that's what this story is all about to me. It was a bit shocking to me, but because I've heard about something similar in my own culture in Nigeria as a Nigerian, it brought it all back to me that, oh my goodness, these things that I thought back then was just a story. And well, it might be true, yes, maybe to some point or to some extent, but it's actually really true. And that's a story that I'm going to talk about today. It's a documentary. If you have, I believe, Google Play or iTunes or whatever, I watched it on, I believe is Amazon, not particularly sure, but you can do a search. It's called OMO, AOMO, Child. And it's a story about a particular tribe in Ethiopia. They're called, I believe, the Kara tribe. There may be more than one tribe that actually practice this, that they have the same belief. And it's a particular practice within that tribe. And I will explain a little bit. It's called Mingin. Mingin is actually some sort of a curse. So it's a belief within this particular tribe in Ethiopia. And it's also, I believe, there's more than one tribe that actually has the same belief. And I will tell you exactly what it is. It's actually a belief that there are certain children under some certain condition that are already cursed. And they believe that those child needs to be killed in order to protect that tribe from diseases, from maybe their gods getting angry with them and striking them down or cursing some kind of catastrophe or something that may actually happen to the community. So in order to prevent that, they believe in killing those children that they believe that they've been cursed. And these are the children, they have three categories, at least for this particular story. The categories that this particular tribe believe that they are curse of children, the children that are born out of wedlock. So the parents weren't married, they just got together, a boy and a girl, have a child out of wedlock. That child automatically, they believe, is cursed and must be killed. A child that actually grows a top teeth before the bottom one. I remember that back in the day in my country as well, that it was a thing, but it wasn't, at least growing up, it was, oh yeah, if a child already, if they grew the top set of teeth before the bottom one, it's believed that the child is powerful, some sort of, the child probably will grow up with some sort of power, something like that. So it wasn't a big deal, or maybe it was. Maybe I was just too little to understand. But I know it's they kind of tie that into a child having some kind of a power, or maybe being having gifted in some certain way, in a weird way anyway. And the third category of curse that this particular kind of people in Ethiopia actually is, I think they call the area Omo Valley. It's that a child that a twin, a child, if the child is actually born as a twin, they kill the child. And how do they kill them? They literally leave them, they drown them, or they actually leave them out, just put a lot of soil, just block their mouth with that, so the child will not be able to breathe. They just leave the child out to die. And that's been the tradition for, I believe, from my understanding, maybe hundreds of years. I don't know, 200, however it's been in existence. We don't know. The point is, up until the time that this documentary started, this documentary came out in 2015, and it took them 5 years. Of course, it followed this particular individual that God eventually used to start to save these children that has no idea of the kind of world they're coming into. They didn't know that the children had no idea they're just coming into a world that they didn't choose to come out of wedlock. The children that didn't choose to have, they don't have control over when the top teeth or the bottom teeth comes out. They have no control over being a twin or being a single child. So these children are just being killed because of tradition of some belief. And I believe, in my own, at least to kind of relate to the story a little bit, it's very interesting what happens across the globe in like different tribes, different countries. I'm from Nigeria, and this is Ethiopia. And I believe when I was growing up, I heard about, I think it was killing of the twins that was eventually stopped by Mary Slessor, I believe it is. Hope I'm remembering my history right. She came to Nigeria as a missionary and found out that this twin, they were being killed because they just believe it's just not natural. It's a curse for a child to come as a twin child, as our twins. And I think it's Mary Slessor that actually stopped that in Nigeria. But that was way before I was born. I can't believe in 2015, that is still going on in a totally different part of the world. It's amazing. What you probably think it's local or just in your own area, it's actually still going on. Anyway, so there was a gentleman, and I don't really know probably how close the story is to because it was, like I said, it's a documentary. There's this gentleman who grew up in that kind of village in Ethiopia as well, where this practice was actually being, where this has been going on, this curse and this practice of killing children. But he didn't get to know about it until it was like 15. He managed, I believe, when they started to I think when the missionaries actually came to their neighborhood or maybe where they were and told them about education, the parents decided, because this is a part where the school is not close to that village. So they have to walk miles and miles and miles. I've forgotten how far out where the education or where the school was in comparison to where the village was. So they actually had to go for days. They would go, well, the child that the parents probably is releasing to go to school will have to walk to school, I guess, probably, and then they'll stay there and then come back probably some time later. Not so it's not a distance where you can just walk in the day and be back. It's a bottom line. So this particular child eventually was one of the few children that the parents allowed to actually go to school. So most of the people in the village, at least up until that point that this particular person went to school, seems to be uneducated. They held on to their culture. They were having this close knit. It's not a big community, so everybody knew each other. So anytime anybody has a child, and based on the movie or the documentary as well, it kind of seemed like the elders would just grab the child. The parent doesn't have to consent to it. Once they see that a child's been it's actually born out of wedlock, they don't have the parent or the mom or whatever does not have control over what happens to the child. If the child probably are two and starts to grow the teeth and is the top teeth first, the parents don't have control of what happens. They'll just grab the child and kill the child. And the same thing with a twin child. So it was just, I mean, looking at it from outside, you can just say, my goodness, this is horrible. But to them, it's a culture. They've been practicing it for years and years. Not that I'm saying it's a good thing, not that I'm saying it's right. It's just what they've grown over the years to know or to believe, and they just believe so much in it. Anyway, bottom line, this particular gentleman, Lale, I think it's well, the first name is Labuko, witnessed it, and he was determined in his within him, a little child, a culture that's been going for years, hundreds, at least couple of centuries. So he decided within him that he needed to stop it and needed to rescue these children. They actually, based on, like I said, from the movie, law enforcement came to that community. They could not, this elders fought. They said it was going to, whatever, there's no way they could stop them from practicing their culture, what they believe in, that it was a curse. Those children were cursed. I mean, it was more like war, a battle. Police enforcement could not stop this community from doing what they've been used to doing, to do. They used to doing it. So, so this gentleman, as he was actually growing up, gathered even starting out, he couldn't just go ahead and confront them. He just begged and asked them to please give him these children. So he was leaving now. He's no longer leaving. He's grown. He graduated and out of school. He no longer lives within that community. He was now married. He was actually living outside, probably in a city. So it wasn't, but then he will come back, and this was still happening. And he would beg the elders to please give him this child. And they didn't want to, because they thought, well, just because the child is going to grow up somewhere else does not mean it's going to stop the curse. It's going to stop that from happening. But it was interesting the way he would go. He started to educate the boys that you can't just go sleeping with these girls. You know exactly what will happen. The girls will have the children with the kids, and the kids will now die. They will be killed. So he started to educate these kids, and he started to partner with them, the kids that were still in the village, the boys, the teenagers. And that was how he started, because his elders would not give up these children easily. So he partnered with them, educated them, told them not to just sleep with these girls anymore, because they knew that the outcome was actually wouldn't be good if they had kids out of wedlock. With that said, he also told them to start to grab whenever he sees this. The elders, whenever they leave these children out, he literally told the guys, kind of planted them, had them watch out for what's going on in the community. That if they ever see and the elders will put those kids out or drown them at the middle of the night or something like that. So he told them to start taking the kids once the elders leave. The very first kid I saw in the documentary that was rescued, very beautiful child, that all they needed was to call him, that he will come and get that child out of the village. And this was how it started, gradually risking his own life, because these elders were actually ready to kill him, because they were not ready for anyone to stop the culture, to stop what they knew or what they believed to be a curse that was actually going to backfire on that particular village. It started as one child, and it kept going. It did not stop. It would come, talk to the elders in this documentary. They will refuse, they will resist. And then he started talking to the parents as well. If you have a child and the child starts to grow the top teeth, just give it a child to me. So with the teenagers, now they were partnering. They knew, they saw the good that this gentleman was trying to do. Labuko was trying to do, the Lale Labuko. This is the same guy, the same gentleman that grew from that particular village, but then it was educated through the missionary, through the free education, but he was now living outside of that particular community. He was living farther in the cities. Of course, he's gotten a job, is doing well, and then he has his wife, and they decided to do this, open a place in their home for these children, and they started to bring these children in one after the other, one after the other. And as the children were coming in, the elders were fighting. They didn't want him back in the community. They planned to kill him if he ever shows up. That he was the one. He was going to allow the bad things to happen to them by keeping these children alive, and on and on and on. But eventually, the parents saw a way of escape for these children. They started to believe in him. They will call him, they will give the children to them whenever any of those children shows out to be whatever it is that falls within the category of the curses. And the boys, the teenagers were going literally at night looking for children, following these elders all over the place, grabbing the children once the elders are about to drown them, or maybe elders put them out in the bush for them to die. And this continued and documented for over 5 years. The final one that I saw was a little child, and they had grabbed the child, left to die. And this particular Lale Labuko, what was also interesting about him was that he believed in God. He said he trying to explain to this, was actually trying to explain to this, to his villagers or the village people, that nothing is going to happen to them, that this child or children given by God, there is nothing that they don't bring, the children are not born with this bad luck that actually seem to be something that I think is plaguing them. He tried so much to convince this based on his own belief that God is the one that's given these children, and he doesn't give children just so that he will allow bad things to happen to the people. And it was very interesting, the passion he had for these children, the fact that I was trying to end this tradition, this mingy thing. He tried all the best partner, he tried everything he could, but I was just, it touched me so much, because at the end of the documentary or the movie, I guess it is both, it was as if the 2 weeks they watched, they wanted, it was as if the villagers were expecting something to happen, because they wouldn't allow them to go and kill the child. That particular place where the child was left, they brought in, I believe, law enforcement to guard the house. This child was probably left there for 2 weeks. The child did not die, and nothing happened to the community. According to the movie, the Mingi tradition actually ended with that. It ended when after the 2 weeks, the elders now allowed him to carry the baby. I mean, they showed the baby, I think it was probably months later, very healthy child. That child was left 2 weeks, one of the children that was actually born out of wedlock. From birth, took the child out, the place, so nowhere. The place just abandoned the child. And I believe when the guys heard about it, the elders wouldn't allow them to take the child. So they actually had a law enforcement to actually surround the area. So they watched the child for 2, and the child did not die. So it's amazing what God does and how God uses things like this to open the eyes of the entire village. According to the movie, that was what ended the tradition. Killing of children, because they were believed to be the children were believed to be cursed once they fall under the category of the different categories that they place them in, being a twin, or probably having their top teeth first, or maybe they were born out of wedlock. And going back, when I watched the movie, and I thought to myself, a 15-year-old took it upon himself. He said to himself, I will do whatever it takes so that these children will stop losing their lives, that they will stop, so that children will have an opportunity to live. Because these children could not save themselves, their parents couldn't save them, and they were just being killed. Children that have no idea of what, had no control of how they were born, where they were born, how the tree grew. And it was just amazing at 15 when he had the idea. he was determined and he followed through. Once he got married, he had the opportunity, opened an organization looking for funding. He confronted the elders. It doesn't matter if the elders, they threatened him that they were going to kill him. I began to wonder how many destinies were tied to Lale, Labuko's destiny. If he had not taken the steps, a lot of people, thousands, who knows, tens of thousands of people, they were been born in that community, grew up, like they just died, never thought about it, to challenge the culture. And lots of babies' lives have been lost. Destiny is destroyed just because of a particular belief. But one person decided to take a step of faith that, you know what, these children are meant to be something. The life should not be cut short. And he took that step and he never looked back. And today, as of 2015, when that documentary came out, he had about 33. I think he said the children in that place in his organization, they were about 33. Those are 33 lives that would have been lost if Lale did not stand up, tell himself that he was going to stand up against this tradition and end the tradition. And that's what's challenging to me. He didn't have to have millions of dollars. He didn't have to have innovation somewhere. All he did was he had the determination. He was determined in his heart. He had the belief that his children were born for a reason, for them to have life, to live a life, a meaningful life, and their lives were being cut short because some people just don't understand the meaning of having children and for these children to have a chance at life. All they cared about was tradition and culture that they grew up with, but nobody took that step of faith like Lale did when it made its determination at 15. And I keep talking to myself, what difference am I making? Lale, all he did in his community was he educated the boys. He did the little things, started with the little things just by calling the boys together, educated them, told them that these things you're doing, if you've seen these children being killed, then why continue to do it? Spoke to the parents, bring your children, give them to me. And all these other things of the determination, everything that took, he just put himself that this is a purpose, it's a goal, it's a vision that God must have given to him. Because part of the thing that he talked about is the fact that God has a reason for actually allowing these children to come to life in the first place, to be born. Then why do we think we have the right or the power to kill them and end the children's lives? And I want to say today that are we so concerned about our own personal lives that we forget about what's going on in our community and environment? A lot of people ignored it. They saw it in that particular community. But he stood up, he rose up, just one person within the same community. A lot of children grew up just like Lale. A lot of them probably, one or two others probably got educated and they found their way out of the community, probably never looking back to see what's going on, how they can make it difference. And I want to ask you today, as I ask myself, are you making a difference? Are you looking around? Am I looking around to see what needs to be changed in my environment? Am I looking out for opportunity to add value, to make things better, to at least maybe one destiny is tied to mine, that if I don't take the right steps, do the right things, then things will not work out for other people. Those 33 lives, their destinies were connected to Lale Labuko's destiny, his life. If he did not take that step, he'll be dead. I don't know how many of us God is committing one thing or the other into our hands, just like myself. One of the things God wanted me to do is just test the testimony, and I keep pushing it off, and I keep doing it on my own time. But the Holy Spirit keeps saying, somebody needs to hear this. Somebody needs to know that they need to take the step of faith and step outside their comfort zone. Look around, look deeply, not just the difficulty and the challenges that we see that we're going through, or just the next money to be made, or the next dollar to be made, or the next bill to be paid, or something that has to be just for self and to satisfy self and to make self feel better and to make self look better. But to look outside and see, who can I help today? What difference can I make today? What is God telling me? What has it committed into my hands? Am I doing it? Whose destiny is convenient to mine? And I ask myself the same question, even as I speak tonight. Pray that God will help us. Pray that God will open our eyes to see what we need to do, the steps we need to take. I pray that the Lord Almighty will help us to realize and move further. Maybe we have been a bit slow in taking that step of faith. Maybe we have taken it and we're facing challenges. I think this is just one way to see things that God wants to move us forward. Lale did not stop when the elders threatened to kill him. He actually went further, pressed on. I pray that the Lord will open our eyes. I pray that whatever He has committed to the eyes, I pray that we'll have the boldness. I pray that we'll have the faith, the dedication to push through, to do what He has committed in our hands, so that we will not be found guilty. Destinies are connected to our destinies, and we need to do what God has committed into our hands. I pray that we shall be successful in doing and carrying out in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's been wonderful sharing the stories of the story of Lale Labuko. Again, this particular documentary, you can find it, I believe, on Google Play. And also you can do a search, Omo. It's called Omo Child. And the story about Omo Valley of Ethiopia. So if you probably feel that you want to watch this to inspire you, go ahead and watch it and read about the story. God bless you as you do so. Again, thank you for joining us. This is Tina, Dr. Tina Ibironke. If you're watching it from any part of the world, morning, good afternoon, good evening, or at least good night if you're watching it at night. God bless you. Have a blessed and wonderful day. If you have not listened to any of our other sessions that we have put out there, I will encourage you to go ahead and search YouTube Tests to Testimonies. God bless you and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.